Okie doke. So where you are, or what you should see at this moment on the screen is my personal website. So I use both. I use my personal website to communicate to you as well as Canvas. There are three possibilities for the textbook, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, and a couple of different possibilities for all of you to get information from me. But let's focus on my website first. So my personal website is really multiple websites. I'm on my homepage at the moment. If I look under Kirk Miller Art, you can see information about me and my resume and the kind of artwork that I make and that sort of thing. And Gallery 934 is a website that I have for my new or experimental work. I have a blog that I write to, once in a blue moon, not very often. And what you need to focus on, though, are Kirk's classes. Okay, so if I go to Kirk's classes right here, you can see samples of the artwork. So let's start with that. I'll go ahead and turn off the automatic scroll. So these are examples of artwork that I'm going to show you that you will be doing in this class, in addition to lessons from the textbook. So the first assignment that you will have will be a mask assignment. Some of the examples that I show you are very sophisticated. Some are very basic. They're all, beautifully designed and illustrated, though, and technically done very well. So here's one that was done a while back, Richard Mallory. Here's another one that was done in the summer class a few times ago by Nisa Acosta. Really, really very nice. This one was done several years ago by Jordan Wan. So you can see some are very simple, some get fairly complex. This is one of the simpler ones, but design is really excellent by Charles Kaguya. A traditional mask by Jaya Hamnani. Another one that was done during the summer. Catherine Liu. So some are more traditional, some are more experimental. But again, it explores the skills that you've learned in the first 2 weeks of our summer class. The next one is will be, for the final assignment, will be optional. You can either do an architectural detail, it's more of an experimental piece, or you can do a portrait. So this one was done by Edwin Espinola. Very kind of expressionistic approach to doing his self-portrait. Something that's a little bit more traditional that Daisy Rugamas did. And again, this would be your final assignment. Serena Chen. Yvonne Perez. And Richard Mallory. So those are some different possibilities for the final assignment. The second assignment that you'll be doing, since these are not displayed in order, will be what I call the Tokidoki assignment. And that's to apply two-dimensional graphics that you design in Illustrator to a three-dimensional object, a product, and it will be a skateboard deck. You'll do 3 different interpretations, working with an oblong, elongated oblong kind of format. And some of these, again, are really, their work is a series. some work individually. It will be entirely up to you. Some are kind of variations of one another. Some in the past have been very abstract. You can always add humor to them. They can be very flat, two-dimensional graphics. Some can be more three-dimensional in their approach. So those are a few examples of work possibilities that you'll be doing in this class. In order to get in touch with me, you need to email me at kmiller@cerritos.edu, but actually I prefer my Gmail account, which is kirkmillerart at gmail.com. So if you need to get in touch with me, email me. And if you need an individual webinar, let me know, because during the summer, campus is still closed down, and everything is still being taught online. Okay. Now, where you will spend most of the semester are on the next 2 pages that I see here. I have my handouts page and my weekly syllabi. So let me go ahead and go to the weekly syllabi so you can see what we're doing today. And I'm hopeful that most of you already have. And you can see first step here, Art 186, Computer Graphics with Adobe Illustrator. Monday, we had a holiday. And you can see here's the link to our webinar. Tuesday, this is what we're doing now. It's an orientation day. And I will be covering lesson 00, just to give you basically an overview of Adobe Illustrator. Wednesday, we will be covering, getting to know the work area. So this will be lesson 1. And then techniques for selecting artwork, lesson 2. We'll see if I need to do this one. I may kind of jump ahead and do this one tomorrow, and then jump ahead to the next exercise on Thursday, do lesson 3, in fact. So we'll see. I try to remain flexible with all of these. And during the regular semester, this is what I have for my other classes, for my Photoshop classes, for my 3D modeling classes, and for my web design classes. Okay. So that's where we have that. That's where I have what you'll see on Canvas is my complete syllabus, but this is a weekly syllabus that I let you know what we will be doing in class, or what you should be doing if you aren't attending the webinars, and when things will be due. We'll specify due dates here. And if you've already looked on Canvas, you should be able to see the due dates for the 3 assignments that we have. The first one will be due at the end of next week, and then the end of the 4th week, the second one, and the end of the 6th week, the 3rd one. I also have a variety of links over to the left. As all of you should know, that you will need, if you don't already have it, you will need your own subscription to Adobe Illustrator. This would be my recommendation for you to use, is to go to collegebuys. If you haven't already, to go to collegebuys.org. That's the best price for all of you. So if I were to click, I'll go ahead and click on this now. It should take me here. This is the Foundation for California Community Colleges. And where you will look is for students. And we'll go ahead and we'll shop now to show you where it will take you. Okay. You need to put in the state, and it only has California. And you're a student, and we'll go ahead and submit. And you can see that this for hardware, software, these are the discounts for students. I believe you need to provide some sort of identification, proof that you are a student and you're taking, especially for the Adobe Creative Suite, that you're taking a class that incorporates the Adobe software. This is what you would want to do right here. So this is the Adobe Creative Cloud. And you can see it's $40 for, if I click on here, for a 6-month subscription. Okay, and if you want an annual subscription for 12 months, it's $80. So that's the best price that you can get. Okay, so let's go back out of that. Now let's take you back to my personal website here. So that's where you'll need to go. Another good one, resource to use is lynda.com. And towards the end of the summer semester, I might be showing you some videos from lynda.com. Normally this costs $25 a month. However, through the LA County Public Library, you can gain access to it for free. Let me see if I can get that going for you here. So I'm going to put in LA County Public Library. You just have to get a library card. LA County Library. Yeah, LA County Library. Okay. So if you don't have a library card, you would go here to get one, and you can get one digitally online. And right here is where they have their digital library. We would want to get, it's now called LinkedIn Learning, formerly lynda.com. So let's see if I can log in here. So let's go ahead and get started. I probably should have done that before, but I'll put in my library card real quick. I already have one here, so I'll do this one. And let's see if that will get me into this real quick. So there we go. So now I have access to thousands of videos, literally thousands of videos that cover anything from Illustrator to Photoshop to learning HTML to learning JavaScript and other things that are now associated with business practices, that sort of thing. Okay. So if I wanted to, if I can go to me right here, let's see what I have. Here is my collection. So let's go to my learning history or my saved. Let's see what we have here. I'll go ahead. So this was from last semester when I was specifically showing my Photoshop class on different videos on different restoration techniques for photographs. You can also, I can have my collections, which are here. So for 3D modeling, for web design, I've broken it down into different groups. Here's what I have for Illustrator. So what's new in 2021? That's something that we could look up. So I can do that. So what's new in Illustrator 2021. Let's see if they have anything. New features. So let's go ahead and save this, because maybe this is something that we should look at in the future, and I can go ahead and add to my collection. Okay, so I'll add it to Illustrator. Okay. So one after another, depends on how much time you want to spend on these, but they're extremely, extremely helpful. So I'm going to go back to my website here. Let's go back. So this is another resource that you have available to you that is free. Keep going back. I should have done this a little bit differently. Let's go back here. There we go. Okay. So collegebuys.org for your software needs. That will get you to the Adobe. Lynda.com, but you have to, for the free usage of their site, you need to go to the LA County Library. I should probably put that link up there as well. Okay. And then we have our syllabus. So in addition to that, our weekly syllabus, I also have under Kirk's classes, I have handouts, a handouts page. Again, if we scroll down, if you want to see an 18-week syllabus for this class, you would find that right here. Okay. But since we're meeting for only 6 weeks, this would be broken, you know, just condense it. What we normally do in 1 week, we're going to now do we're going to do 3, you know, what we normally do in 3 weeks, we're going to do in 1 week. So here are the assignments. For example, the first one that you'll be doing is the mask assignment. And this gives you an overview, step by step, of what you're supposed to do. They're generally very broad and open-ended so that you're free to do what you want to experiment, but working in some very specific parameters. Okay. So let me go back out of that. So that's where you'll find that. I don't have a specific assignment for the portrait assignment, but that would be architectural detail. It will be an experimental piece. And I'll probably do a demonstration for the portrait piece. So this is where you will find, again, for all of my classes, handouts for the specific assignments. And again, it kind of repeats what we had before in terms of helpful links to other resources. Okay, are there any questions so far? Now, let me go back to the weekly syllabi page, because I haven't talked about the textbook yet. And there are some other resources that I have available for you as well. So one is that I only teach this class during the summer. So from last summer, we were using the 2019 edition of Adobe Illustrator, Classroom in a Book. All of my lectures are recorded and put on YouTube. So if you find those helpful and you would rather use the 2019 edition of Adobe Illustrator, you're welcome to do so. I never used the 2020 edition. It's very similar to the 2019. And this summer I went over and I did all the lessons in the 2021 version of it. So that's what I will be demonstrating for those of you who wish to have a live demonstration. If you don't, then I won't. I will just use my live webinars for critiques, to help you individually with your projects and to give you feedback. Or if you're having difficulty with a particular lesson, I can talk to you about that and help you to work through it. Okay, so it's totally up to you. If you want to access the video tutorials, simply go here under that top menu, and it will take you to YouTube. And if we scroll down here, you will see it's this one right here, directly to the right of 3D Studio Max. It's Art 186, Illustrator, Comp Graphics, Summer 2020. And if we play all here, you can see that here are all of
Sleep better this summer with a new mattress.
I don't want to watch the ad. Here are all of the demonstrations that I did for that class. So there are a total of 27 lectures that I did in that 6-week period. Okay, so that will be an option for you as well. Now, also, if we go back, depending on how many of you, wish to participate, because my plans are at the moment to have a webinar Monday through Thursday to help all of you. If you don't need my help, you don't need my help. So what we could do is that I do have here, let's see, I have a 186, I gotta find it. Oh, here it is. This one up right here. Art 186 comp graphics for summer 2021. And the only thing that I have in here right now is the orientation video that you should have watched or seen from if you went to Canvas that I use for all of my classes. Okay, so those are some options for you to take the class. I encourage you to check in with me periodically, at least, you know, minimum once a week, perhaps twice a week, just to email me to say, I'm checking in, I'm doing okay, I'm working on the first assignment, or I'm working on the project, the lessons. And then I'll check you off for attendance and know that you are actively a part of the class. Okay. So let me go back again to this week in class. So that's all I have for that. You can find a lot of things, again, for Canvas. When you turn in a project, I will grade it and you'll find your grade on Canvas. What else? I do not grade the lessons individually. I tabulate them at the end and they are equal to one assignment. So they will be 25% of your grade. So when you look at the grades, let me look, where are grades here? I don't have anything here yet. So, oh, right here, there we go. They don't do it in alphabetical order. You can see that the mask assignment is worth 10 points. The Tokidoki assignment or the skateboard assignment is worth 10 points. The architectural detail or portrait, should you choose to do that, is worth 10 points. And lessons 1 through 14 are worth 10 points. Now, roll call, if you're here or you're not, I kind of give you 5 points for free. Just for participating. Okay. So if there are any questions, I'm going to start and I'm going to take you through Adobe Illustrator, and we'll spend the last half hour on that. So this is lesson 00, just to get you acclimated to Adobe Illustrator. This is what it looks like. For those of you who have used any other Adobe products, the layout is very similar. What I have right now is the classic setup here. If I look up here in the upper right-hand corner, here's the workspace, Essentials Classic. Most of what they're focusing on these days is Essentials, so you don't have that little options menu at the top. It seems that the direction that Adobe has gone is they're really focusing on the properties panel on a lot. They've added a lot of features to it. I kind of like the classic model myself. So that's Essentials Classic. So you see the little menu bar along the top here. But more importantly, we're going to look at the artboard itself. So this is where you work on your art. You can have multiple artboards, which I'll cover shortly. The tools that you use to make your art are over to the left. And I will be covering some of those today, and we'll be going through all of them in the next 6 weeks. This is what I call the options menu along the top here, is that every time you select a different tool, typically it will change and its appearance up here, and it will give you additional options to use those tools up here. So I just selected the text tool, and it will tell me the fill, the stroke for that particular type, what the typeface, the size of the type, whether I want it flush left, centered, so on and so forth. But then there's a lot of redundancy built into Illustrator. So if we look in the properties panel, all of that is here as well. Here's the fill, the stroke. Here is, again, the character, Myriad Pro, again, all duplicated. So it's up to you how you choose to lay out your Illustrator for yourself. Okay, so we have all of our tools, our options menu, and over to the right are panels. Okay, so panels, let me go ahead and I gotta move this up a little bit. I'm going to change the size of this just a little, make it a little bit smaller, just so I can see the bottom of my menu here a little bit. No, I got to make it even a little bit smaller. There we go. And then in the lower left-hand corner, it shows us that we're viewing the artwork at 88%. Over here, it will show us what artboard we're working on. And then down here, you have various options available to you. I can say show number of undos, the date and time, current tool, artboard name. I kind of like the number of undos that I used. Now, before I go over this, to show you a basic working structure of how you use Illustrator, I want to compare it to another program that maybe some of you have already used, like Photoshop. And Illustrator is very different than Photoshop. It's so I'll go ahead and click a new menu here, or a new file. So to show you how to create a new document while I'm doing this, you have various options. You can use from recent to saved, and then you can use mobile, web, print. So let's select print, since in the past, most of what we've done here has been for print. Here are some templates that they provide for you. Here are some basic sizes that are available for you that we can go for width. Right now it's in points, but let's select in print. Let's go ahead and select a letter size. That's the first one that they have here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll select it and make sure that the orientation is horizontal, just so you can see it. You can specify a bleed if you want. We'll talk about it a little bit later, which bleeds pertain to printed files. And then you can determine also your color mode. Again, for print, you're going to work in CMYK. If you're going to design for the web, it would be RGB, or for television, or for a projected device, something like that. So I'll go ahead and I'll create this. We're going to use the default white background. And you can see that it's filling to the page here. So one of the ways that we can start is I'm going to use some of the basic tools over here. And let's just use the ellipse tool. So you'll notice over here in the tools to the left that some of them have a little tick mark in the lower right-hand corner. That means that there are additional tools or variations of that tool underneath. So if I click and I hold down on it, you can see that I have a rectangle tool, I have a rounded rectangle tool, have an ellipse tool, a polygon tool, a star tool, a flare tool. And if you wish, if you want to just see all of these, you can go ahead and use this little tear off menu so you can see all of them at a glance. Okay, if you want to get rid of that, click the little X in the upper left-hand corner. So what you need to realize in Adobe Illustrator is that it is an object-oriented program, that every single thing that you make is a separate object, okay? And objects then are layered on top of one another. So for example, if I want to make a circle, I can do it a variety of different ways. I can click and drag, and notice it says ellipse, so that I can make an ellipse. Now, if I want this to be a perfect circle, if I hold down the Shift key, I can go ahead and I can click and drag diagonally. And you can see in the lower right-hand corner, it tells me within that little gray box how many points it is. Now, if I want to switch from points to inches or another unit of measurement, I can do so. Okay, so I'm going to let go of the mouse. And by default, down here, we can see that it's a white fill with a black stroke. We can also see with the object selected, the same information up here, white fill, black stroke, 1 point for the stroke. If I want to increase the size of the stroke, I can do so like so. If I want to change the properties of the stroke, I can change that here. If I want to change the opacity for the entire image, I can do that here. We have align tools. We can, use, we can recolor the artwork from here, do a whole variety of things. Now, if I want to change the fill, I can do that from here. I need to make sure that that fill is in the foreground, or I can do it from over here. So let's go ahead and change it over here. I'm going to select the fill button from here. And right now I have solid colors, I have gradients, and I have patterns all selected at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and select this fill right here. And I'll go ahead and click off of that to close that little panel. So that was all done from over here. That could be done from here. It could be done from up here because we have a little color panel here. Again, they have, and it's at least 3 or 4 different ways you can see that. And I can click down here. Right now I say just show gradients. If I want to say show all swatches, I can do that. That's what I had over here. So, multiple locations that you can find it. So whatever is convenient. It's important to be familiar with most of them so that as you're working, you can increase the speed of your work and the accuracy at the same time. So if we look at this, which would be very different from Photoshop, as I said, that this is an object-oriented or vector program, which means that all of these shapes that we create are defined by mathematics. So if I zoom in here and I'm hitting the command and the plus, and I'm zooming way in, and you can see that all of these curved shapes are just beautiful. They're just pristine. They're incredibly accurate and crisp and sharp. And that's what we want. And that's what Illustrator is known for, to create these 2-dimensional graphic shapes, very accurate, and also very small file sizes. If I wanted to use this as a logo for my company, I could make it 1 inch by 1 inch for the letterhead, envelope, and calling card. And then later on, if I wanted to make it 30 feet tall on the side of a building or put it on the side of a truck or whatever, I could use the same file. And depending on the quality of the output device I was using, it would hold up and it would look just fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of it. So I'm selecting the, this is our move tool here. That's kind of your home base. And I'm going to begin to move it and hold down the Option key as I do. And that's a quick way of making a copy of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and convert this now to a bitmap or raster. I'm going to rasterize it, which is what Photoshop is. So if I go ahead and I take this and I go to Object and I select that I want to rasterize it, it will give me some options here. The default is to leave a white background, leave the color mode CMYK. I'm going to use the lowest resolution, which is 72 pixels per inch, and that is screen resolution. And I do that for a reason, to show you that once I have vectorized it or rasterized this, you can see that raster objects can only be rectangles. They cannot be unique shapes like the circle. And in doing so, it filled the back corners of these with white. I could have specified transparent, but what I want to do now is I want to zoom in to show you this again. And you can see all the little pixels. That's what rasterization does. It changes this to pixels. Now, if you were designing a web page in Illustrator, you would have to rasterize that page because on a screen, it only views images in pixels. There are exceptions to that. There are scalable vector graphics that are used in web design, but predominantly, the predominant image type that you use will be a bitmap, a rasterized image. So this is the difference that you would see, that you wouldn't be able to scale up your image in Photoshop. You would need to know in advance the size of the image that you needed for your project, and you would need to know what it was used for and the resolution. Highest resolution for print usually is around 300 pixels per inch. And then if you were designing for the web, you would only need 72 pixels per inch, which is the screen resolution. Okay, so those are the fundamental differences between Illustrator and Photoshop type program. So if you're used to Photoshop, this will be very different for you. So I'll go ahead and I'll close that. I'm not going to save that. And let's go ahead and work on this. So I'm going to take you through a really quick, I have 15 minutes left. So I'm going to take you through a really quick approach to designing this little stylized illustration of an ice cream cone with a nice little stylized background and some text. So I'm going to go File, New. And I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. I just want letter size. I want it to be horizontal. And instead of points, though, I'm going to switch right here. And I'm going to switch this to inches. Create a new one. If I want to see rulers to help me out, Command R. And notice along the top and to the left, I have rulers. And you can see that it is a letterhead size piece of paper. So representation of a piece of paper. So if I want to bring out guidelines, I can do so. The book didn't do this, but I like doing this just to help me find the center. So this would be 4 1/4 and 5 1/2. So here is my center of my my page. Okay. If I want, I can bring up what are called layers. And within that, we can see that I have 2 guidelines. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this layer. I'm going to name it Guides. Okay. And because I don't want to actually draw on this, I'm going to lock it. And I'm going to add a new layer on top of that. And this will be my drawing layer. So I'll go ahead and rename it. And I'll name it Drawing. Okay. And I'll go ahead and I'll close that panel. So I'm going to go ahead again with the ellipse tool. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a circle. So this time I'm going to do it from the center outward. And I'm going to hold down the Option and the Shift key, and it enlarges it from the center. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to increase the stroke size to maybe, I think they wanted like 5 or 6 pixels. And then I'm going to click over here under Fill. And I'm going to pick a nice pink color for this. So we'll pick this pink one right here. No, that's orange. I want pink. So let's go ahead and I'm going to switch from the swatches to the, I'm going to take yellow out here. And there's a nice pink. Let's go ahead and increase the magenta on that. So there's different ways of adding colors. And if I wanted to add this to my color panel, I could do so. So I could switch back to the color panel. And if I click the plus sign here, I could name this, and I'll just name it pink. And it's process color. And by default, it is global, which we'll talk about in another lesson. Okay, so there's my color. And I said, maybe I want to make a copy of this. So the easiest way to do that is to simply click and drag, and then as you drag, hold down the Option key and release. And now I have another copy of it. And if I want another copy, do the same thing. So just click and drag, hold down the Option key. Now I have another copy. Now, if I want to change the scale of it to a different size, I can move the cursor over the corner. And there's also a scale tool over here to the left. That would be underneath, right over here. But another quick way of doing this would be to, and if I want to constrain the proportions, again, hold down the Shift key. I can also hold down the Option key so that it makes it the same size, but a little bit smaller from the middle. Okay, now notice that it scaled the stroke. If I didn't want to do that, I have to change the properties. But what I want to do is I want to combine these two elements. Okay, I want to combine this circle with this one. So let's see what happens here. I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Shift key to select both of them. In the next lesson that we'll cover tomorrow, we'll be covering how to select and deselect, a whole bunch of different ways of doing that. But what I want to do is I want to join these elements together. So a few versions ago, they added this very powerful tool called the Shape Builder tool. And what I want to do is I want to join these together as to one kind of double circle thing. So if I click and I drag across like so, notice that it combined the two together. So now I have something very similar to what they have here. Now I can go ahead and I can select, and let's bring this back over to the center here. Now I could use the Align tool to center that. I can use my arrow tools to nudge it. I can move up, down. And here's my, ice cream cone. Now, if I want to make the cone below, there's a variety of ways that I can do that. They use the curvature tool. I don't know that I would do that for this, but so I'm going to show you two different ways really quickly. So let me deselect that. And notice that right now, every time I create a new shape, it's automatically layered on top of the last one. That's the default. Another option that I have available to me too is down here. Here are my drawing modes. So maybe I want to draw the cone behind this. So I'll go ahead and I'll do that. I'll change the drawing mode to behind. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the curvature tool. This is what the textbook does. So I'm going to click here. And I'm going to click down here. I'm going to click up here. And then I'll click over here to close the path. Okay. Now, if I double click here, come on. Notice how it turned it into a sharp point instead of a curved point. And likewise, if I wanted these to be sharp points, I could do the same. Just double click on these points. So now that they're sharp points. And if I want to move these, I can also go ahead and I can use the little white arrow up here, which is the direct selection tool. I can deselect, select again one of these points, and I can move it over to the right a little bit. I can move this one over to the left a little bit. Hold down the Shift key if I want it to be perfectly horizontal. If I want to click on this point and move it up, I can. So come on, I don't want me to undo that. There we go. Or I can just select the entire object and I can move it up like so, and that will squash it a little bit. Now you'll notice that it used the last this is really kind of off, so I don't like that. I'm going to go ahead and center this like so, but I want the little point at the bottom to be directly beneath. So I'll use the direct selection tool again. I'll click on the bottom point, and I'm going to move it over just so that it goes right there to the center. Okay, so it used the last and it's also a little curved. So I screwed something up here, but that's okay. What I can do here is I can come here and I want to change the anchor point tool. And I'm going to go ahead and click here, make sure that it is on. There we go. Do the same here. Make sure that these are not curved points, but they are corner points. That's why I wouldn't have used the curvature tool like the textbook did, but that's okay. The next thing that we want to do is I want to change the color of the cone. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a gradient. So let's look up here and see if we have what gradients we do have. And we don't have much. I could use, let's go ahead and use black to white. Okay, so that automatically goes from left to right. Then what I can do is I can also go to under window, I can bring up the gradient panel like so. And I can click on each of these endpoints and I can change the color of these. So what I can do is I can click on here, double click, come on. And I'm going to use a little brown color here, maybe a darker brown for that endpoint. I can leave that white, or I can click on the other end here and double click again to bring up another color. And let's go ahead and let's use a light brown here. No, that's too dark. Oh, go ahead and select this one again and make it even darker. There we go. So now I have a gradient inside here. There are a variety of ways of making gradients that we will cover later in additional lessons. I can change the opacity of this. I can do a whole variety of things. The other thing that I can do too is I can create a circle that goes behind it, behind this one as well. And we can add an effect to it to get the little zigzag shapes or here. So I'm going to go ahead and click back here. I'm going to go ahead and select the ellipse tool again, and it's going to, by default, select the gradient for the background. And that's okay, because I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to a pink color again. So let's go ahead and click down like so. And I'm going to go back to, from gradient, I'm going to go back to here, and let's pick a pink. Actually, I'm going to select this one. And I'm going to duplicate it because right now this is a global color. So if I select that and I duplicate it, I'm going to change the next one so that it isn't global, because you'll see in a minute what happens. So this one now is not, if I were to change it as a global color, it would change both of them at the same time, which can be very effective, very efficient way to work. It can also mean that you're changing things that you don't want to be changed. So I'm going to make this one a little bit lighter. Okay, so I'll double click on here to bring that up. And I'm going to go ahead and lighten this up just a little bit, so a little bit less. Turn on preview, which I forgot to do. That's a little bit too light. Let's make this a little bit darker. If I want to add a little, make it a little bit more orangey in color, I could do that by adding a little bit of yellow. There we go. Okay. Now, it's not zigzaggy, is it? So what I need to do is go back to my, let's go back to properties. Let's close my panel here. And under stroke, I'll go ahead and click on here. And while that's selected, I don't want a stroke. So even though I have a stroke and fill properties, I can turn them on, turn them off. Now I can go ahead with this shape selected and I can go to Effect. Let's go back under Effect. And I want to stylize, and I'm going to add, how about here? I've forgotten where it is. I don't want to warp it. Distort and transform. I guess maybe I want to, well, I'll just show you as an example here. Distort and transform. Oh, zigzag right here. There we go. So now you can determine the size of the zigzag. You can determine the number of ridges to get the look that you're going for. And before you know it, you've got a little illustration here. Another thing that we can do too is I can go ahead and I can, let's go ahead and deselect. And I'm going to switch to a rectangle tool. And I want to create the little sprinkles on top of this. So what I need to do, let's deselect, click outside of it and deselect my rectangle. And I'll go ahead and I'll create a little rectangle like so. Now, if I zoom in on this, what we'll be able to see is when I switch to tool here, there's little circles in the corner here. And if I click and I drag on them, notice that I've made radial corners. So here, now I've made my little what are they called? The little candies that go on top of that. I can shrink that down a little bit. I can collapse it a little bit. We can zoom out. And I've run up against my hour here. Let me try to, I'll finish this maybe next time. So anyway, I can go ahead and I can change the stroke of that. I can change the color of it, and I can, duplicate it as many times as I wish. Okay, and then I can add the text to it. That will be the last thing that we do. So I've run up against my 11 o'clock hour, so I'm going to leave you guys alone. I will go ahead and record this and put it up. I've already started the recording, but I'll go ahead, and if there are any questions for any of you, please let me know before we end today. You let me know too whether you plan on attending daily or whether you would prefer to work on your own. That would be very helpful because I will be here and I will help you with the lessons, but maybe I will cover the points a little bit in a more abbreviated fashion rather than do it step by step like the textbook. But I need to hear from all of you to make it work. So I have a question here in the question and answer. I did take roll, yes. So I think I got Marcella here. Let me go back to I believe I got you. Let me go back to attendance. It's kind of slow, a little sluggish here. Yeah, Marcella, I got you. Anybody else? Somebody else has their, Karana, you have your hand. You want to talk?
I didn't take the roll.
I got you.
Okay.
Juan Kim, Marco will be added, and Marcella. Okay, so I got everybody. Another question and answer. Okay, got it. Okay. So that just gives you a really quick overview of how you begin to create your illustrations. And this would be an approach that you would take to creating your mask. Anyway, so that's it for today. If there are any questions, you guys are free to leave, and I will post this on my YouTube channel. Okay, so I'll say goodbye. I'll go ahead and stop recording. Stop. I'll pause the recording.